Good morning, my dear friends. I hope you all are doing great. So today I have come up with some of the questions on thermodynamics. Let's get started. Take on the question number first. The molar heat capacity of water at constant pressure, that is Cp, is 75 joule per Kelvin per mole. Okay. So my dear friends, you know the expression of molar heat capacity which I have taught in previous classes. So molar heat capacity at constant pressure is Qp upon N into delta T. And what is the SI unit of the molar heat capacity at constant pressure? Heat is measured in joules, N stands for number of moles, and temperature will be measured in Kelvin. So we have joule per mole per Kelvin. So obviously here also when we talk of the molar heat capacity at constant pressure, see the units here, joule per Kelvin per mole. So it's a molar heat capacity. So let's do the solution for this problem, my dear friends. We have Cp with us, that is 75 joules per Kelvin per mole, my dear friends. Apart from that, now when 1 kilojoule of heat is supplied to 100 grams of water, which is free to expand, okay, the increase in temperature of water is, we have to calculate the increase in temperature of water when you are supplying 1 kilojoule of heat, okay, to 100 grams of water. So how much of heat you are supplying to the water, my dear friends? 1 kilojoule. So that means the heat is supplied at constant pressure. We are knowing about that. So how much heat is supplied, my dear friends? 1 kilojoule of heat is supplied to the 100 grams of water. Correct? Now try to understand, my dear friends. I want to convert this 100 grams of water into number of moles, because you know the expression here. Everybody is aware about the expression that if I want to calculate the increase in temperature of water, let me write down one expression first. Cp is equal to Q upon N into delta T. That's my expression. I can also write it like this. I want to calculate this delta T. So delta T will be equal to Q upon N into Cp. So this is my expression. So I will use this expression now for the calculation of the increase in temperature of water. But in order to calculate the increase in temperature of water, I should know all these things, my dear friends. And I know Qp. Qp is how much, my dear friends? 1 kilojoule is the Qp. Correct? And N stands for number of moles. We are not aware about the number of moles here, but we can calculate the number of moles here. And Cp. We are knowing about Cp, we are knowing about Qp, but we have to find out N. So once we find out N, we can easily tell what is the increase in the temperature, my dear friends. Have a look here. Now I want to talk about water. I want to calculate the number of moles of water. The number of moles of water is equal to mass of water divided by molar mass. Molar mass. We know that the mass of water which is given to me is 100. And what is the molar mass of water? Molar mass of water is 18. So mass of water divided by molar mass of water. So I got the N value also, I got the Qp value also is with me, and Cp value is also with me. You know that the Cp is basically in joules and this heat is basically in kilojoules. So let us convert this into joules. So 1 kilojoule is equal to 1000 joules. So 1 kilojoule is equal to 1000 joules. So I have all the three things with me, my dear friends. Cp, Qp and number of moles of water. So now let us put it here, my dear friends. Tell me what is Qp here, my dear friends. It is 1000 joules divided by what is N? This is the expression for the N. So N is basically 100 upon 18 into, what is Cp, my dear friends? Cp is 75. Cp is 75. Now we have to simplify this particular thing. So if we simplify this particular thing, what is the exact value we will get it here, my dear friends. So have a look here, my dear friends. Let's talk about that. If you look here at this particular point, you will find out that these two zeros and these two zeros will cancel out. Correct? Then this 18 will go up. It will become 18 into 10. It will become 180 upon 75. And if you divide 180 by 75, my dear friends, you will get almost 2.4. And that 2.4 will be the temperature change, and that is in Kelvin. So our answer will be, my dear friends, 2.4 Kelvin will be our answer. I hope you have understood, my dear friends. I was knowing about the molar heat capacity. QP was also given to me in kilojoules. I converted it into joules because this was in joules, so this should be also in joules. Then I calculated number of moles of water, mass of water divided by molar mass of water, and I got 100 upon 18. Then finally I used an expression of delta T, that is QP upon N into CP. Q was given me as 1000 joules divided by N, number of moles of water, 100 upon 18 into CP is 75. So finally 180 divided by 75. You cut these two zeros here, then this 18 will come up, it will become 10 into 18, that is 180 divided by 75, that is 2.4 Kelvin. So obviously this is my answer. I hope you have understood. Please make note of this. My dear friends, let's talk about now question number 2. For N2 gas, the value of Cp minus Cv. I have already mentioned here this C is a small letter here. This is also a small letter. So small c basically means specific heat capacity. So specific heat capacity at constant pressure, okay, minus specific heat capacity at constant value. I need to find out their value, my dear friends. So specific heat capacity at constant pressure minus specific heat capacity at constant value. I need to find out their value. So their value can be any one among them. So let us try to understand. Let's go for the solution part of this. Let us suppose I have written capital Cp minus capital Cv, which I have derived in previous class. This is the molar heat capacity. Molar heat capacity at constant pressure minus molar heat capacity at constant value is equal to R. So this expression we have already derived, but this expression you are not aware about. Small Cp minus small Cv, specific heat capacity at constant pressure minus specific heat capacity at constant value. So we don't know about the value of that particular thing. So let us find out. But first of all, we'll find out what is the relationship between specific heat capacity and the molar heat capacity. We have to find out the relationship first. Okay, in your NCERT it is not given that relationship, but let's write down that relationship, what that is all about. Please remember this relation. We know that this is the molar heat capacity at constant pressure minus molar heat capacity at constant value. Okay, how it is related to this particular thing? It's equal to molar mass of a particular gas which you are using into small Cp minus Cv. So this is the relationship between molar heat capacity and specific heat capacity, my dear friends. Cp minus Cv is equal to m into Cp minus Cv, and this m will stand for molar mass. And we know that this Cp minus Cv is equal to R. Capital Cp minus Cv is equal to R. And you also know that this small Cp minus Cv is basically specific heat capacity at constant pressure minus specific heat capacity at constant value. Okay. Now this Cp minus Cv is equal to R. So we will write down finally it's equal to R. That is Cp minus Cv is equal to R. Cp minus Cv is equal to this expression equal to R. Now I can relate these two expressions, my dear friends. So let's take on this specific heat capacity expression with respect to R. So I will get here, my dear friends, m, that is small Cp minus Cv is equal to R. then I will write down Cp minus Cv is equal to R upon M. M stands for molar mass. Yes? And we know that molar mass of N2 gas is equal to 28 grams. So molar mass of N2 gas, nitrogen gas, is 28 grams. So my expression will become small Cp minus small Cv, they are specific heat capacity at constant pressure minus specific heat capacity at constant value, is equal to R upon M, that is molar mass, and that is 28. So obviously the D option is my answer here. The D option, R upon 28. I hope you have understood this particular relationship. Please remember that these are molar heat capacities and these small letters are basically specific heat capacities. Please remember. When you multiply specific heat capacities with molar mass, then it becomes the molar heat capacities. Yes or no? Or difference in molar heat capacities we can get. Please make note of this. So dear friends, let's talk about the question number 3. Delta H and delta U. That is enthalpy change and the change in internal energy for a reaction. And reaction is given to us. Okay. At constant pressure are related as. What is the relationship between delta H and delta U for this given reaction at constant pressure? So I have to find out the relationship between enthalpy change and the internal energy change. I have to find out the relationship. My dear friends, you are aware, if you look at this particular expression, we have already done it for a gaseous reaction, if you remember. For a gaseous reaction, we have already derived an expression for delta H and delta U. And what was that expression, my dear friends? Relation between delta H and delta U. So what was that all about? Have a look. That was delta H is equal to delta U plus delta N gaseous RT. That was the expression which we have derived earlier on. So relationship between delta H and delta U for a gaseous reaction, okay, at constant pressure and temperature. So this relationship we have already derived. I think you remember this particular relation. Delta H is equal to delta U plus delta N gaseous RT. So now my dear friends, this delta N will tell you everything about this particular reaction. And you know that if we look at this particular reaction here, my dear friends, you will find out that here we have solid, and I told you last time this delta N is gaseous. It's taken for number of products or number of moles of products in gaseous state minus number of moles of reactants in gaseous state. So this delta N is only taken for the gaseous state, my dear friends, correct? So in this particular reaction, this guy is solid, so let's cancel it. This is also solid. These are your reactants and these are your products. This is liquid, so cancel it. So how many gaseous products you have? This is solid, this is liquid. You don't have any gaseous product. So that means number of products which are gases are 0, minus. This is solid, so it will not come. I need to find out the number of reactants in gaseous state. So tell me, how many reactants are present in the gaseous state? So 3 are present in the gaseous state. 3 moles of H2 are in gaseous state. So I will write down here 3. So my answer for delta N will be minus 3. Yes, now I will come back to my expression which I have derived earlier on. You are aware, to find out the relationship. Delta H is equal to delta U. And we know the value of delta N now. My dear friend, delta N gaseous is minus 3. Just I have derived it there. Delta N is minus 3. So delta H is equal to delta U. Then plus, in place of delta N, I can write down minus 3. then RT. So I will get here delta H is equal to delta U plus minus is minus 3 RT. So look at the expression here, man. What is the relationship between delta H and delta U now? Delta H is equal to delta U minus 3 RT. So option number C is the answer. So you have easily calculated it. When you calculated delta N gases for this particular reaction, you found out that the number of moles, okay, or we can say the change in number of moles which are in gaseous state is basically minus 3 for this reaction. So you put the value of minus 3 in this equation which we have already derived. Okay, so the final relationship for delta H and delta U is delta H is equal to delta U minus 3 RT. Please make note of this. So dear friends, let's talk about the question number 4. What is the value of gamma for monoatomic gas? But before you know this particular thing, let us write down certain things here. Gamma is equal to Cp upon Cv. That's first expression. Gamma is also equal to 1 plus 2 upon F. And what is this F all about? This is a degree of freedom. This is a degree of freedom. So let me teach you this degree of freedom first, my dear friends. So let's talk about, we'll take a monoatomic gas. In monoatomic gas we can take helium, neon, argon. Yes? And we will talk about its translatory motion of monoatomic gas. Translatory motion, and we'll talk about its rotatory motion. And these two factors will give me the degree of freedom. Degree of freedom of gas. If you talk about the translatory motion of the monoatomic gas, my dear friends, this value is 3. That means this monoatomic gas can move along x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. So it will show translatory motion along all the 3 axes. Monoatomic gas will show translatory motion along x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. So it is translatory motion will be taken as 3. But it does not show the rotatory motion along any of the axes. So this will be 0. And this degree of freedom, which is F, is equal to translatory motion plus rotatory motion. Yes or no? So this will be 3. So it's a sum of these two, my dear friends. Let's talk about now diatomic gases. Diatomic gas. If we take diatomic gas O2, N2, Cl2, my dear friends, they also show translatory motion along 3 axes. They will move along x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. So translatory motion is 3. But these gases will move, okay, they will show rotatory motion along 2 axes only. So rotatory motion by diatomic gases is shown only along 2 axes. So here 3 axes will not be involved, only 2 axes will be involved. So it is 2 here. So rotatory motion shown by diatomic gas is only along 2 axes. Okay, so 2 value. So obviously the degree of freedom will be 5. Now let us talk about now triatomic gases. If you have a triatomic gas, now in this triatomic gas you can have linear gas or you can have non-linear. If you have a linear gas you can have, let's suppose, carbon dioxide is linear, carbon disulfide is linear, yes. And in non-linear you can have, let's suppose, water as a gas, ozone as a gas, methane as a gas. They are non-linear, my dear friends. Okay. Let me remove this methane for time being. I will teach you what is this. In triatomic gases, for linear I am talking about, for linear, the translatory motion is 3, but the rotatory motion is only 2. So value will be 5 here, my dear friends. But for the non-linear gas, this is 3 and this is also 3. So degree of freedom is 6. So degree of freedom is 6 for non-linear triatomic gas. Yes, and this is for linear gas. So please remember that. And this triatomic gas is also known as, you can also call it as polyatomic. So this triatomic can be also called as polyatomic. So if I take one more example of polyatomic gas, even you can add on methane also. So for methane also, you will be having the degree of freedom as 6. So now let's come to the question, my dear friends. What is the value of gamma for monoatomic gas? So if I have a monoatomic gas, I will use my expression here, gamma, this expression. Gamma is equal to 1 plus 2 upon F. I am talking about monoatomic gas. Okay? So remember once again, this triatomic gas can be also called as polyatomic gas. So this value is for degree of freedom will be 6. Okay? So remember, now if you go for here, go further and understand here 1 plus 2 upon F. What is the degree of freedom for monoatomic gas? Degree of freedom for monoatomic gas is 3. So this F value is 3. So let's put 3 here, it will become 5 upon 3. And then 5 upon 3 is basically 1.66. So now for the monoatomic gas, the gamma value is 1.66. But if you look here, 1.2, 1.33, 1.4 and none of these. So none of these is the answer, because the gamma value for monoatomic gas is 1.66. And one more thing I would like to tell you here. If you have a triatomic gas is also called as polyatomic gas. Okay. Now, my dear friends, in triatomic gas, you can have linear gas or you can have non-linear. If you have a linear gas like carbon dioxide and carbon disulfide, then degree of freedom will be 5. But if you have a non-linear gas, in triatomic gas I am talking about H2O and O3, the degree of freedom will be 6. And obviously now this is basically the tetraatomic gas, tetraatomic. And this rather it is a pentaatomic gas, because 4 plus 1 is 5. So it's a pentaatomic gas. And this pentaatomic gas is also a polyatomic gas. And for this it will be 3 plus 3, that is 6. So for these gases also, my dear friends, degree of freedom will be 6. Please remember that particular point. So dear friends, let us do the question number 5. What will be the degree of freedom and gamma values for O2 gas? My dear friends, you are aware now that if we have a monoatomic gas like helium, neon, argon, like that, and we know that degree of freedom for the monoatomic gas is 3, and the gamma factor is basically, it's 1.66 is the gamma factor. Okay. And now for diatomic gases. For diatomic gases like you have O2, N2, yes or no? Cl2. The degree of freedom is 5 and this value is 1.4. Gamma value is 1.4. And for triatomic gases, if you have, or you can write down polyatomic gas. So you can take examples, but there are two factors here. If you have linear, let's suppose if you have polyatomic, a linear gas, or we can say triatomic as a linear gas. If this triatomic gas is linear, then the degree of freedom will be 5 and obviously the gamma factor will be 1.4. But if this is non-linear, then this will be 6 and this factor will be 1.33. So my dear friends, you should be aware about this thing. And for linear molecules, we have carbon dioxide, carbon disulfide, and for non-linear we have, let us suppose, water, yes, we have ozone, yes, and we have hydrogen sulfide also, we have sulfur dioxide also, and even you can take as methane also. So remember these all things. And now what is the answer for our question? We know that this guy is our diatomic gas. So degree of freedom for diatomic gas is 5. So degree of freedom is 5. And the gamma factor is 1.4. So gamma factor is 1.4. So the answer is B option. So dear friends, let us talk about the question number 6. In adiabatic reversible conditions, my dear friends, 1 mole of CH4 gas at 300 Kelvin is expanding such that its value becomes 27 times. That means the CH4 gas is expanding and its value becomes 27 times. Okay, so let us start with this particular question. What we have done do here, then the work done is we have to calculate work done, and this work done is basically reversible work, but it is adiabatic as well, where the Q factor will be 0. We are aware about that. First of all, let's find out the solution for this problem, and even the molar heat capacity. This is the molar heat capacity only at constant value, because see the units, in place of joule they have used calorie here. So they have used calorie here in place of joule. So calorie per mole per Kelvin. So this factor is nothing but molar heat capacity at constant value. So this is molar heat capacity at constant value. Because units will tell you calorie per mole per Kelvin. So joule has been replaced by calorie. That is the only thing here. So if you look at this question, you have 1 mole of methane gas. So N value is equal to 1. So we have 1 mole of methane gas. And the temperature is given to me, that is T1, 300 Kelvin. The value becomes 27 times. When you are heating this methane gas, man, at 300 Kelvin temperature, what happens? The volume of methane gas becomes 27 times, means it increases 27 times. Let us suppose the initial value V1 is equal to V. Let us suppose the initial value is V. Then after the expansion, so after expansion we will get V2, and that V2 will be 27 times to that of V1. Yes or no? So it will become 27V. So initial value was V and the final value after expansion. Yes or no? So this is happening after expansion. So you are getting it 27 times than the initial. If this is 1 liter, let us suppose this will be 27 liters. So 27 times it has increased. If this is V, this will be 27V, my dear friends. Now we know that it's an adiabatic reversible condition, and you also know the first law of thermodynamics. If I apply first law of thermodynamics, we know one thing, that is delta U is equal to Q plus W, but here W is basically reversible. And you know the condition is adiabatic, so Q will be equal to 0 when the conditions are adiabatic. So in adiabatic condition, heat will not flow from system to surroundings or surrounding to system. So Q factor will become equal to 0. So finally we will have delta U is equal to work reversible. And you know, my dear friends, this is CV. CV is the molar heat capacity at constant value. And in previous classes, you remember, I have derived one expression, my dear friends. That expression was QV is equal to delta U. So this QV is equal to delta U, this expression, my dear friends. So now, what will be this QV equal to, my dear friends? Okay, QV is equal to N, okay, then CV delta T. So my dear friends, now you are aware about the factor that this delta U is equal to work reversible. Yes. Now you will be thinking that how does it has come? Previous time I told you that heat absorbed by system at constant value is equal to the change in internal energy. And how this QV is related to this expression, because you are aware about the fact that when we talk of this particular expression, have a look. Molar heat capacity at constant value is Q upon N into delta T. Yes, then this QV is equal to what? NCV delta T. And we know that QV is equal to delta U. And this QV is equal to, have a look here, NCV delta T. So I have written this expression, my dear friends. Now let us simplify it. Now I can write down here, my dear friends, QV is equal to delta U is equal to what? Work reversible. So I'll write down work reversible, and then I will write down it's equal to NCV delta T, my dear friends. Okay, let us simplify this thing. We know that we have how many moles are with us? 1 mole. And what is CV? Molar heat capacity, how much is that? 6. So molar heat capacity is 6 calories per mole per calorie. So I am putting 6 here. Delta T will give me change in temperature, final minus initial. We know the initial temperature is 300 Kelvin. So I will put here 300 Kelvin. So I will get here 1 into 6 into T2 minus. For T1 I have 300 Kelvin. So my dear friends, the only thing which is missing here is T2. So the only thing which is missing here is T2. So I have to find out T2. So what is the expression for finding out T2, my dear friends? Have a look. So I will give you one formula to find out T2. Have a look here. Remember this formula, my dear friends. T1 V1 raised to gamma minus 1 is equal to T2 V2 raised to gamma minus 1. Okay, this is the formula for calculating T2. Because I need T2. Once I get T2 expression, this one, then I can easily get work reversible. I will easily get work reversible, my dear friends. So T2 is missing. So let us find out T2 by this formula. We know T1 is 300 Kelvin. So 300. We know V1 is equal to V. V1 is initial value is equal to V. So in place of this, I will write down now V raised to gamma minus 1. T2 we are not knowing, but V2 we know. V2 is equal to 27V. So I will write down here 27V raised to gamma minus 1. Just try to focus here. Gamma minus 1. Now, in this question, my dear friends, gamma value is given. Gamma value is 1.33. So I will put here 300, then V raised to 1.33 minus 1 is equal to T2. Then this will also become 27V raised to gamma is 1.33 minus 1. So obviously we will get here 300 into V to the power 0.33, and here we will get T2 27V raised to 0.33. Yes. So my dear friends, this 0.33 can be also written like this. Have a look. 300 into V raised to 0.33 can be written as 1 by 3. 1 by 3 is equal to 0.33. Then you have T2. Then 27. It will become 27V raised to 1 by 3. So further I will write down 300 into V raised power 1 upon 3 is equal to T2. Then 27 has raised power 1 by 3, so I will write down separately now 27 raised to 1 by 3. Then separately V raised power 1 by 3. Okay. Then this V raised power 1 by 3 and V raised power 1 by 3 will cancel. Then I will get 300. Try to focus here. I'll get 300 is equal to T2. Then 27 raised power 1 by 3 is cube root. Cube root of 27. Okay. So 27 raised to 1 by 3 is the cube root of 27. So you will be getting 300 is equal to T2. And cube root of 27 is, my dear friends, how much? 3. So it will be 3 actually, you know what? 3 cube. 3 into 3 into 3. Yes, I know that is 27. So obviously you will get 3 here. Then finally, my dear friends, T2 is equal to 300 divided by 3. Is it visible here? 300 divided by 3. And that is, my dear friends, 100. So T2 is 100. Now I will put the value of T2 here as 100. So I will get work reversible is equal to 1 into 6 into 100 minus 300. So 100 minus 300 is minus 200. minus 200 into 6 is minus 1200. So you will be getting minus 1200 as answer for this, and it's a work reversible, my dear friends. So the answer will be the D option. So the minus value is basically here. Minus value here means the work is done by the system. So work is done by the system. I hope you have understood this particular thing. Please take care of yourself. Meet you in the next class. Have a great time. Thank you.